Ethan Carter had never planned to spend his Saturday deep in the forests of northern Oregon. The 17-year-old usually preferred video games and editing videos for his small YouTube channel. But after a stressful school year, he decided to take a break and explore the wilderness with his camera. The trail he chose wasn't popular. In fact, most people avoided it. An old wooden sign stood near the entrance. Blackwood Trail. Underneath, someone had scratched a warning into the wood. "Turn back while you still can." Ethan laughed when he saw it. Probably some teenager trying to scare hikers. He started recording. "What's up, guys? Today we're exploring one of the weirdest trails in Oregon. Apparently this place has a creepy reputation." The first hour was uneventful. Tall pines surrounded him. Birds chirped overhead. The forest felt peaceful. Then he found the first clue. An old backpack, half buried beneath leaves. The fabric had faded from years of rain and sunlight. Inside he found a rusty flashlight and a map. The map showed a campsite several miles deeper into the woods. What was strange was that the campsite wasn't marked on any modern hiking maps. Curiosity pushed him forward. By late afternoon he reached a small clearing. The moment he stepped into it, he stopped. A camp, an entire abandoned camp. There were 6 tents, a fire pit, cooking equipment, even folding chairs. Everything looked as if the people had simply vanished. Ethan slowly walked through the area. Leaves covered most surfaces. Nature had started reclaiming the site. Yet something felt wrong. The abandonment didn't seem natural. One tent still contained sleeping bags. Another held clothes. A pair of hiking boots stood neatly beside an entrance. Nobody leaves a campsite like this. His heartbeat quickened. Then he spotted something near the fire pit. Camera. A professional camcorder. Covered in dirt but surprisingly intact. He picked it up. The battery should have been dead after all these years. Yet when he pressed the power button, the screen lit up. Ethan nearly dropped it. No way. The camera contained dozens of recordings. Most were labeled with dates from 7 years earlier. The final file was named Day 6. He sat beside the fire pit and pressed play. Static filled the screen. Then an image appeared. A group of 6 young tourists smiled at the camera. 3 men, 3 women, college-aged, happy, laughing. The person filming introduced everyone. "Day 6 of our Blackwood adventure." The group cheered. At first the footage seemed ordinary. People cooking, joking, exploring trails. But then the mood shifted. One of the girls looked nervous. Her name was Sarah. "We heard it again last night." The others immediately went quiet. The cameraman laughed nervously. "Don't start." "I'm serious," Sarah said. "It sounded like somebody walking around the tents." Another man nodded. "I heard it too." The video cut. A new clip began. Nighttime. The camera pointed toward darkness beyond the campfire. The group sat silently. Then it happened. A sound. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps. Coming from the trees. The camera zoomed toward the forest. Nothing visible. Only darkness. The footsteps stopped. Everyone waited. A voice suddenly echoed between the trees. A man's voice. Far away. "Help!" The group froze. The voice came again. "Please help me." Ethan felt chills run down his spine. The tourists began arguing. Some wanted to investigate. Others wanted to leave. The footage ended abruptly. The next clip started the following morning. The group looked exhausted. Nobody smiled anymore. One man explained they had searched for the voice during the night but found nobody. No tracks. No signs of another person. Nothing. The camera recorded several hours of hiking. Then another strange discovery appeared. One of the tourists found a tree. A huge pine tree. Carved into its bark were dozens of names. Hundreds, perhaps. Some names stretched back decades. Many had dates beside them. The latest date matched the current year of the recording. The tourists joked about it. But Ethan noticed something disturbing. Several names appeared more than once, as if the same people had carved them again and again over many years. The cameraman seemed to notice too. The video zoomed closer. At the bottom of the tree someone had carved a sentence. The letters were deep and jagged, almost desperate. Copies your voice. The footage suddenly cut to static. Ethan stared at the screen. The sun had started setting around him. The abandoned camp felt much colder now. A gust of wind moved through the clearing. The tents rustled softly. Then Ethan heard something. A distant sound from the forest. A voice. Faint. Almost impossible to hear. Yet unmistakable. A man's voice. Help! Ethan slowly turned toward the trees. The same word. The same voice from the recording. Coming from somewhere deep in the darkness. And for the first time all day, he seriously considered running. Ethan grabbed the camcorder and hurried into one of the abandoned tents. The sun was disappearing behind the trees, and the forest was becoming a sea of shadows. The voice didn't come again, at least not immediately. His hands trembled as he opened the final recording once more. The footage continued from where it had cut off. The 6 tourists were back at camp. Nobody was smiling now. The cameraman whispered instead of speaking normally. Something followed us back. The camera turned toward the trees. Nothing. Only darkness. Yet everyone in the group seemed terrified. One man named Ryan explained what had happened. While hiking back from the tree with the warning, they had heard someone walking behind them. Whenever they stopped, the footsteps stopped. Whenever they moved, the footsteps continued. But nobody was there. The footage jumped ahead to midnight. Rain hammered against the tents. The camera pointed through a small opening. A flashlight beam swept across the forest. Then everyone heard it. A voice. Sarah's voice. Except Sarah was sitting beside the cameraman. The voice came from deep in the woods. Guys! Sarah's face instantly turned pale. That's me. Nobody answered. Again the voice echoed. Guys, over here. The tourists locked themselves inside their tents. The recording continued for nearly an hour. Voices appeared one after another. Every member of the group heard their own voice calling from the darkness. Sometimes laughing, sometimes crying, sometimes begging for help. Then came the most disturbing moment. A figure appeared between the trees. The flashlight briefly illuminated it. Tall, human-shaped, standing completely still. His face couldn't be seen. The cameraman zoomed in. The figure slowly raised one arm and copied the exact movement of the cameraman holding the camera. The footage ended abruptly. Ethan swallowed hard. His pulse raced. A cold feeling spread through his chest. Something moved outside. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Footsteps. Much closer this time. They circled the tent. Slowly, patiently, Ethan held his breath. The footsteps stopped beside the entrance. Silence. Then a familiar voice spoke from outside. Ethan? His blood froze. It was his mother's voice. Impossible. His mother was nearly 200 miles away. Ethan? Are you in there? The voice sounded perfect. Every detail. Every tone. Exactly like her. He didn't answer. A long silence followed. Then the voice changed. Became deeper. Wrong. Almost mechanical. Ethan. The tent fabric suddenly moved inward, as if something pressed against it from outside. Ethan grabbed his backpack and burst through the opposite side. He ran. Branches whipped across his face. Roots nearly tripped him. Behind him came more voices. Dozens of them. Some crying. Some laughing. Some calling his name. All coming from different directions. He ran until he found an old ranger station marked on his map. The building was abandoned. Its windows shattered. Its roof partially collapsed. Yet it offered shelter. He barricaded the door. Hours passed. Near midnight, he discovered something hidden beneath a dusty desk. A notebook. The final entry was written 7 years earlier. The same year the tourists disappeared. The note contained only one sentence. If you hear someone you know in the forest, do not answer. Beneath it was another line. One that made Ethan's stomach drop. It learns from every voice it takes. Morning finally arrived. Ethan had barely slept. The forest outside looked normal again. Birds sang. Sunlight filtered through the trees. Everything seemed peaceful. almost enough to convince him that the previous night had been a nightmare. Almost. Then he found footprints outside the ranger station. Hundreds of them. Human footprints. Surrounding the building. None leading away. Ethan immediately returned to the camcorder. There were still several recordings left. He opened the next one. The tourists looked exhausted. Only 5 remained. One member of the group was missing. Ryan. Nobody explained where he went. Nobody wanted to discuss it. Eventually Sarah spoke. He answered. The group fell silent. The cameraman asked what she meant. Sarah stared directly into the lens. He heard his brother calling for help. Nobody said another word. The recording jumped ahead. Night again. The remaining tourists sat around the fire. Then Ryan appeared at the edge of camp. Everyone stood. At first they seemed relieved. Then they noticed something strange. Ryan wasn't speaking. He wasn't blinking. He simply stood there, watching them. The camera zoomed closer. His smile stretched unnaturally wide. Far wider than any human smile should. The tourists screamed. Ryan suddenly turned and ran into the forest, moving impossibly fast. The footage became chaotic. People shouting, branches snapping, then darkness. The final surviving recordings showed the group's desperate attempt to escape. Every trail led back to the camp. Every direction brought them in circles, as if the forest itself refused to let them leave. Eventually only Sarah and the cameraman remained. Their last video was recorded inside a tent. Both looked terrified. Sarah spoke quietly. "We know what it is now." The cameraman asked her to explain. She took a deep breath. "It isn't a ghost." She pointed toward the darkness outside. "It copies people. It learns their voices. The longer it watches, the better the copy becomes." A loud knock suddenly hit the tent. Sarah froze. Another knock. Then her own voice spoke from outside. "Sarah." The recording ended. There were no more videos. No explanation. No survivors. Only silence. Ethan slowly lowered the camera. Then he heard something behind him. A whisper. Inside the ranger station. Very close. "Found you." He spun around. Nobody there. But one thing had changed. The notebook on the floor was open to a page he had never seen before. Fresh writing covered the paper. The ink looked new, as if written seconds ago. Contained only 3 words. "You're next, Ethan." Ethan ran. He didn't care where. He only knew he had to leave Blackwood Forest. The trees blurred past him. Hours passed. The GPS on his phone malfunctioned. His compass spun endlessly. Every trail led him back. Back to the abandoned camp. Back to the fire pit. Back to the 6 empty tents. As sunset approached, Ethan realized the horrifying truth. The tourists had never gotten lost. The forest had trapped them, just like it had trapped him. Then he saw someone standing beside the fire pit. Teenage boy, wearing Ethan's clothes. Ethan's backpack. Ethan's face. The copy smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was the same impossible smile Ryan had worn in the recordings. The creature spoke, using Ethan's own voice. "You're almost finished." Ethan backed away. The copy stepped forward. Its movements became unstable. His face flickered, changing between dozens of different people. Sarah, Ryan, the missing tourists, unknown hikers. Voices overlapped. Hundreds of stolen voices speaking at once. Ethan realized something. The camcorder. The creature hated the camera. Every recording had ended when it got close. Perhaps because the camera captured its true form. He quickly turned the camcorder toward the creature. The screen flickered. The smiling figure suddenly distorted. His body twisted like static. The voices became screams. For the first time, it seemed afraid. Ethan kept filming. The creature staggered backward. The forest around them shook violently. Trees groaned. Branches snapped. Then the creature let out a horrifying sound unlike anything human. His body collapsed into darkness. A living shadow. The shadow rushed into the woods and disappeared. The silence that followed felt unreal. Moments later, Ethan's phone suddenly regained signal. His GPS started working. For the first time since entering Blackwood, he could see a route out. He didn't hesitate. He followed it all night. Just before dawn, he emerged onto a highway. A passing truck driver stopped and helped him. When authorities searched the forest days later, they found nothing. No abandoned camp, no ranger station, no tents, no footprints, nothing. The entire place had vanished. The only evidence Ethan possessed was the camcorder. Months later, he uploaded the footage to his YouTube channel. Millions watched it. Most believed it was fictional. Clever horror project. Ethan wished they were right. 1 year later, he received a package with no return address. Inside was a memory card. Only one video existed on it. The footage showed Ethan asleep in his own bedroom, recorded from the corner of the room. The camera slowly zoomed toward his face. Then a familiar voice whispered behind the lens. A voice identical to Ethan's. "We finally found the way out." The recording ended. And for the first time since leaving Blackwood Forest, Ethan understood the nightmare had never truly stayed behind. The end.